So before we even get started by setting up our environment, our development environment, and all that great stuff, I would like to show you how React works real fast. And the best way for me to do that is to build a very, very simple React application with you. Now, here's the thing. The things that you're going to see here, they will not make any sense. And that is the whole point. I just want to get you excited so you can see how fast we can build something simple, but something that is useful in so many ways. Okay, so just relax and watch this. And if you want to, which I would prefer you do, is just to follow along what I'm going to do here. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is I want you to go to codesandbox.io. You will most likely see something similar to this. Now keep in mind that I have zoomed in so that you can actually see. So this is how you probably will see something like this, okay? It's a code sandbox, which allows us to create projects on the web without having to install anything on our machine. So you can sign in with GitHub, sign in with Google, sign in with Apple, and so forth. So just pick whichever you want. I already have signed in. I have an account with Google, so I'm going to click here, and this will allow me to go ahead and sign in, and I'm already signed in. Now, in your case, if it's the first time, it will probably ask you a few other things. So here what happens is that we have a few things that we can work with. What I want you to focus on here is that you can see that I already have a little project that I created. I'm going to just click on that. You won't see that, of course. I just want to show you. So this is going to actually have all of the dependencies, everything we need to create a simple application, as you see here. So this is what we're going to be building. I just want to show you real quick. So the idea here is to click this button here, and then something will happen. What is happening here is that there is an image of a dog that is going to be showing. So each time I click, an image of a dog is going to be showing. Now it's pretty large, but it's okay. The point is that we have, of course, images that are pulled from a server somewhere, and they'll be shown here. All of that is from this code that we will be looking at in a bit. Okay. Again, you won't have this on your sandbox. That's okay. So I'm going to go back here, and what I'll do, just go ahead and click sandbox, and you can choose all the different templates. Just go ahead and choose just this React sandbox here. First one, click. You can leave as it is, or you can add your own. Doesn't matter. So everything is good. Okay. And at the bottom here, I'm going to say create sandbox. All right. So a sandbox is being created. You can see it says installing VS Code, which is the Visual Studio Code, which is in this case the IDE that we're going to be using to create applications, to write React apps. All right, there we go. So now we can see we have a very nice interface here. Okay, so we have an actual files, here in this panel. We have source, public, so all these things. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize anything. If this is your first time, I'm going to close this down. This actually emulates a Visual Studio Code, which you will be able to install in the next videos. Okay, very good. So that's what's happening here. We have some very random code, interesting code that perhaps we've never seen before. That's okay. Again, this is just to get you going. Index.js, we don't want that. I'm going to close that. I want to go to app.js. So click there. This is indeed, as you see, what's showing here. Hello, code sandbox. Start editing to see some magic happen. All right, that means then if I start editing something inside there, say hello world, because that's what we do all the time, you can see that the changes are being shown. So all of this is being rendered on this little browser here. Okay, this is indeed a browser. All right, so what I want to do here, let's go ahead and delete all of this. I'm going to get rid of all of that because I don't need it. And you can see the moment we remove things, all of that is saved and then is re-rendered. So now it's empty. So of course, if I can say hello or some gibberish here, you can see it's going to show there. But that's not what we want. We want to be able to create a very simple application here. So I have this link here, which you will have access to. So if you go dog, CEO, API, breeds, image, random, this is what you will see. Now, you probably won't be able to see something nice like this. That's okay. The reason why I can see this is because I have this Chrome extension that beautifies JSON. Okay, so this is what I call JSON payload. This gives me this random image each time I refresh. It's an image of different dogs. As you can see here, each time I refresh, I get a different image. You can't quite see the image, obviously, until you click, and then you see the actual image. Okay, so I'm going to refresh and click. There's another image. So this is the API endpoint we're using to put together our simple application, React application. So what I'm going to do here inside of this returns div here, okay, this is the end div. I'm going to put an h2, and here I'm going to just say random puppy, like that. Okay, very nice. So that's what we're doing here. We're adding this tag that says random puppy, and it's showing here. Very cool. Add a button, because I want to make sure that when a button is clicked, something will happen, which is we're going to go ahead and get this image here, URL, of course, and then hopefully show that image somewhere. Let's go ahead and put a button. To add a button, I just say button. You can see here, I could just go ahead and put these angular brackets and say button, or I can just start typing button, and I have option here. I can just click and voila. Now I have a button, and you can see it's just tiny there. It doesn't do anything because we haven't done anything. So inside here, okay, open and closing tags of a button, I can put the title, what I want this button to say. I want to say, get me a puppy, like that. And voila, we have a button, get me a puppy. The question is, how do I then get an actual puppy? So I want to be able to go and fetch this link here and then show an image of a puppy. Well, to do so, inside of this function app here, which we're going to learn all about this stuff. So don't worry if all of this is new. So just follow along. I'm going to create a function here called get random dog. All right, so I have this function. So this function is going to be responsible for getting, in this case, a random puppy. Next, I'm going to then get this link here, right? Because this is the link that allows me to tap into this API. So I can get a random item, in this case, a puppy. So I'm going to put that inside of a variable. So I'm going to say const to create just a variable in JavaScript called data. And I'm going to call fetch. So fetch is just a function that we can use right away and then pass some information. In this case, I'm going to pass just the URL, which is the API URL, which will allow us to get this link here. All right, so let me go back here. So I'm going to put that inside of this data. Whenever we are dealing with fetching data online, fetching data on a server, this whole thing has to be asynchronous for reasons that we're going to learn later. So I'm going to say async before this function, and then before I call this function fetch here, okay, I'm going to say await. That way we are waiting to receive something, and then we can do something with it, because we don't know how long it will take to actually get the link and get the actual puppy. We'll look into that later, no worries. Okay, so that's good. Async for this get random dog, and then we say await inside where we're actually calling this link there to get the puppy. Okay, so now once we have that data, let's go ahead and see what will happen. We're just going to say log and say data, and then pass the actual data, which is this object that's coming in, and so we can see what will happen. So now what we need to happen is that we need to be able to call this get random dog. How do we do that? Well, we have the button here. We need to tell this button that, hey, when something happens, in this case, an event happens, which event? It's going to be on click. When somebody clicks this button, we need to call this get random dog. Okay. To do so, we just say on click. Okay. And voila. Now, you can see that whenever we want to call something, in this case, we're going to call this get random, all it comes in curly braces as that. Okay. No worries. We're going to learn why that is and what's really happening here. So inside of this curly braces, I'm going to say get random. Now notice I'm referencing the get random, not actually calling it like this. You don't want to do that. Okay, just say get random like that. Okay, so now each time this is clicked, we should then be able to see this console log. I'll show you here at the bottom, should show us the data that is coming in, if all goes well. Okay, let's see if this is correct. I'm going to click because we see nothing. Well, the reason being is because we actually have to right click while we're here. So say right click. And you can see, I'm going to go to inspect. So there is this inspect button that shows, because my screen is small for you to see, but find that. And then here, go to console to see what's happening. Okay, so there's a lot of gibberish here. But most importantly, you can see we have this response here. So I'm going to clear this and click again. Voila. So now we have this data. So we are seeing we have this data column, and then we have this response object. If you click inside, you can see that indeed it has some information from this response object. So you can see that we're receiving a lot of things here, which is really, really good. All right, so next we're going to see how can we probe in to get exactly what we want, which essentially is we want to get this message because that is where the URL to the actual image is. So that's what we're going to do next. Of our get random. Indeed, at the bottom here, I can just call this set image. And then I'm going to just pass, well, res, like that. Well, what is res? Well, res, we know it's an object that contains, in this case, the actual field message, which contains the URL, which is exactly what we need. So now I can just get rid of that. And so I'm setting this image, in this case, it's going to be an object, to this payload here. Okay? So now I have access to this. But this is not going to work, as you will see, because this image here is going to be what? This whole payload. So that means then I will have to go and say something like this. Image.message. Okay? So now if I say click, and voila, you can see I'm getting an image. How cool is that, right? Again, and there we go. We can see another image. And I get me a puppy again, and there we go. And of course, things are not styled nicely, but that's okay. That's not the point. The point is that this is working. All right, and there you have it. Okay, and there you have it. So just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we're able to use a foreign API that we found online somewhere and create a very simple application that when we click a button, we are able to fetch the payload that we get from this API, extract the correct field that we want. In this case, we just want this field, which contains a URL to our, and then show that image on click at the bottom here. There we go. And this is the power of React. Now, it took me a little bit here because I was just like trying to explain the dynamics of what's happened here. Again, if this makes no sense, no worries. I don't expect you to know anything for that matter. I just wanted to show you what is possible with React JS. Just in a few minutes, we're able to fetch random images from an API. On a click of a button, we get all those random images that are shown on our web app. So this is actually a web app that is working using React. Okay, there we go. So I hope this is getting you excited to learn React. And I'm excited to teach you about React and the things that we can do to build amazing front-end user interfaces. Okay, so this is just the beginning. Don't stress if this makes no sense because we're going to demystify all of this and much more in this course.